Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Today is the last in a series of 3 interviews we did with the great Greta Van Fleet here at the museum in 2021. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, Greta Van Fleet, Part 3. Welcome back to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage with Greta Van Fleet. So, you've got a new album coming out April the 16th, like we talked about.
Yes, we do.
And you say it's a double album, or?
Kind of.
Feels like
Some would
it's an
argue.
extensive album.
It's
The Battle at Garden's Gate.
extensive title too.
It's
yeah.
right, extensive title.
It's 12 songs, but it's very long. We had to put it on 2 vinyls for the vinyl pressing.
Are you getting a demand for vinyl now?
Yeah.
I think so. It's
Bit of a resurgence.
really interesting. Yeah, I mean, in terms of just the resurgence of it. I mean, you have rap artists, pop
Right.
artists, you name it, folk, R&B, and then there's this
Country,
all doing
even.
like vinyl,
All of it.
and it seems so. There's a whole aspect of the experiential aspect that's missing from a lot of, the musical aspects, and you have something so physical that's almost telling you a story. It's like. It's like, it's such an important part of things, and right
The
now
context.
the context, period, and that's becoming a big thing, and for us especially, the type of music we make, it seems our vinyl's pretty popular item.
It's a lot cooler holding the vinyl up
Oh,
than the
it's-
CD.
Yes, you're
I mean,
right.
Yep.
What is that on the cover?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it,
Right.
just do it. And
Yeah,
that's what the
magnifying
vinyl
glass.
is.
They
But
should be
speaking of
selling
CD, are you selling? Anybody buying CDs anymore?
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, you
Well,
would
that's
be
good.
surprised.
Somebody told me the other day that's making a huge resurgence as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, that's good.
About that here, but
That's better for you guys.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of fans like to have tangible things. I mean, the internet goes down, you're kind of screwed.
Right,
You know?
right.
So,
If I
Yeah.
really love a piece of music, then I will definitely purchase it on a physical platform. And that physical platform used to be everything you needed to know about the band. Look at the back of it and said, "Oh, this is
Man.
the drummer, and this is how they do their thing."
I cannot tell you, when I think back as being a kid and had twin beds, and I remember laying on the bed, Three Dog Night album, Jimi Hendrix Greatest Hits, Dylan Greatest, just looking at the pictures every time the record was playing. Instead of seeing a video, you'd look at the album cover and read the names, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up with that as well, but it's what's so interesting now is that there are so many people, there's so much of our generation that's getting into that, that's consuming that and experiencing that. And
it is a piece of art.
It is art. It's
So-
just like my favorite definition of a guitar is functional art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it truly is. And even some drum sets are awful cool looking. I mean, really.
Absolutely.
I mean, the old sparkle ones I used to make.
Oh, I
and,
know.
Especially when you fill them with goldfish.
And
Yeah,
dynamite.
yeah.
This sounds inhumane.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I had J.I. Allison, the cricket drummer, was one day we were doing an interview, and he was talking about he had a drum set that had a light bulb in it, and it would come on, and he goes, as I played during the night, the drums would because the heat would change the.
We
Hilarious.
used to hide booze in the bass drum.
Oh, yeah, that didn't happen
Dish it
for
all.
long. Josh used to light cymbals on
I
fire.
remember there was that's right. So, yeah,
It's
I
like
did.
tactile pieces, as you say. It's another way to
Art.
It's a functional piece of art.
Functional piece of art.
I remember once we had nothing to hold the kick drum in place, so we had some kid at a bar sit on the thing the whole night. Just went and hunkered down and sat on. I don't know how we did it.
Josh used
he
to
probably walked out of
Josh
there
used to
going like,
stand on the bass drum too. He'd
yeah.
jump up on it and jump off, and it was some serious theatrics.
Well, you could do like Al Jackson did, get a nail.
Right, yeah, just right through the center of the bass
Yeah,
drum.
right.
That'll keep
Nobody's
it
gonna see it.
I like my drums too much, so I don't think I could hurt them like that.
Yeah.
Now that this COVID-19 is, we're not sitting here with masks on.
Yeah.
Life is slowly coming back to every
It's like
form
Fern
of
Gully or something.
restaurants
Some
and
mass
hopefully
vaccination thing.
concert venues.
Yeah.
What's some of the gigs that you guys have got pre-booked already?
There's been a lot of
I'm sure
talks.
people are dying to know where they can
Yeah.
buy tickets.
We've been, I mean, it was really strange because all year it was sort of like all of these hypothetical, everything, as far as the
Everything.
dates, or especially as far as the dates of shows are concerned, and they kept reshaping and they pushed back. And so now it looks like this summer things are going to be it's going to be pretty realistic for people to get together and do that again.
I think so.
Certainly by fall, but
Yeah.
The whole thing's a waiting game. You
Yeah.
know, it's like we have a couple of ideas in place, but nothing announced permanently yet. But we're hoping to very soon.
Well, have you been able to make lemonade out of the lemons as far as this time, downtime, but writing a lot more songs and just,
Yeah.
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of silver lining.
I mean, I'd
there.
like to look at it. I mean, I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a certain way. On one end of the blade, you have the fact that because at the ethos of what we do, of our bands, specifically like ourselves, live touring is such at the core of purpose of what we kind of do. So if we take touring out of the equation, then what we have left is we have to turn to the other side and take the creativity and motivate it somewhere else. And so that, I suppose that's a positive for this
Yeah.
year. We've been able to shoot a lot of videos, co-direct a lot of visual representations of these songs that we've crafted, and we've been able to, play a lot together, jam a lot together. We've been doing a lot of writing. We've started writing a new album, and I mean,
Two of the
how
songs
deep are
on
you
this
into the new
too.
album?
into
It's tough to say.
I mean, 4 or 5 songs already, or?
We got a few songs for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because
Yeah,
the
for sure.
project is still such a baby, just like Garden's Gate was such a baby. When we went to Greg Kristen, we said, hey, we want to make a cinematic album.
Now, is that your producer?
Greg
Yeah.
Kristen,
He
yeah.
produced
yeah.
this one.
And we were so
who's he
attracted.
worked with other than you guys?
Well, that's exactly the thing. We were so attracted to work with him because he worked with the likes of Adele and the new
Adele.
the new Paul McCartney record, Egypt Station. I guess there's a newer
Yeah.
one out now, and the Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean,
just
it's
his
just a really, really extensive.
So how did he
list.
find out about you guys?
well.
It's a really good
I don't
question.
know.
I think we were both mutual fans
Yeah,
of each other.
Yeah, but I mean, he had to. Was it the YouTube or something? Or
I'm
did he
sure.
reach
I mean,
him?
we're all really
Music industry is a small,
Right.
And we're,
small industry.
and we're deep in that. So when
Yeah.
there's something cool coming up, we'll get to know about it.
Yeah, his name was at the top of the list for us, so we kind of really liked
Yeah.
his work. So we went to visit with him at his place, and we had some shows.
That
and
had to be
really
like a total trip on it.
Oh, for
Well,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he said one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And it's just so sweet and endearing and intelligent and
Yeah.
talented, and it was
Worldly,
great to just be
yeah.
able to
And
work
Greg
with him.
is-
You know?
His musical dexterity was
man.
what really he held up high in against every other producer.
Yeah, we met with a couple different producers, but I think ultimately the decision we made to go with Greg, and it enriched everything that we did on the album.
Okay, there's different methods of being a producer. Some people are really like mutt-lying is like every note is. I mean, a intro drum beat could take 4 days.
Right.
How did he work with you guys? Did he let you guys kind of do your thing? Or did he gently guide you, or did he make definite statements that he wanted you to do?
Kind of the exact opposite of that. He really gave a lot of. It was more so trust. We had trust in him. He had trust in us, and it
Right.
was such a
Big thing.
smooth, genuine operation. But it was never really to the point where he got so ever. He
He
never
was
got
present.
nitpicky.
Never.
He was very present, and he was a bit of a fly on the wall, and that's generally what we looked to do.
So he let you be you
90%.
and just kept you from falling in a ditch. or-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And if there was
absolutely.
any
we
sort
never
of
fell in a ditch.
dilemma, he was a great mediator. We
Yeah.
would say, and we would trust him.
Yeah.
It's a,
I think-
Greg,
I think-
what do you think?
I think Greg, that's a good way to put it, was the ultimate mediator for what the ballot.
Which is
Garden Gate
sometimes,
was.
I think, rather impossible for anybody when it comes to. I mean, we can be so stubborn,
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
artistic differences sometimes, and I guess that's just how it goes, really. But
Probably the most the largest musical encyclopedia that I've ever met. You know,
Greg?
when,
Yeah.
when you had a question about what tone you wanted.
Yeah, right.
Well, you could do it this way. You could do it this way. You could do it that way.
Well, when you're in studio, you go direct with the bass, or do
The
you
bass
use an
is
amp? Or what?
mostly direct and sometimes a B15,
Yeah.
and that's it. Very simple. I mean, sometimes we would pull an EMI, put the bass amp in a room with a little bit of resonance. But yeah, I think that we kind of really just very directly honed in on every single tone that we could, and energy.
Yeah.
Jake, what did you use an amp? Did you use a big amp or a little amp or?
All kinds of that
A
stuff.
lot of amps, actually.
That's the thing about the
I-
record, is it's so diverse, and it's
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we get into depth with some of the stuff that we did, but there was so much experimentation, so many amps, so many guitars, so many instruments.
I mean, a lot of times, Kiss or somebody use an amp this big.
Yeah.
You think it was a stack of
Fender
Marshalls.
Champ.
Yeah.
Right.
kind of the best
Little
amps,
right, yeah.
actually.
I love those. I used a lot of Fender Champ.
Yeah.
The most
Rockness.
important part about the album was the live, capturing the takes live.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of times, when I was doing it, a lot of people did it. Everybody was in the studio at the same time, even backup vocals on some of the
Right.
country stuff. Do you guys build it? Do you stack it as like start with drums and bass and then add Josh, or do you put tracks? Is your scratch track often the vocal track you keep, or do you just?
It's really
Yeah.
different for every single song. It honestly depends on the song, but
It is.
very often we always start with all of us in the room.
100%. Yeah, and
It
it's
always starts with
just
that.
I think that's the
live
best myself
performance. It
because
is.
I call it spontaneous creativity. You're
Right.
gonna, rising tide lifts all ships, and when you hear Josh or Jake or Danny or somebody do something, it just makes every one of you play better, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
100%.
No.
We could put down each individual
Fluid.
track to a click, and it would sound
Right.
lifeless. and
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
No,
like
it's just
sad.
fluid.
I
It's-
hate it when people
it's
do
sort of-
that.
It's
Yeah.
raw
There's no
and
reason to.
organic, and it's sort of honest, and it's
You come out of it a better musician that way
Right.
too.
That's
you
the idea.
really work for it,
Yeah.
You lose the soul of the song.
But
I
yeah,
think,
it's,
I think that's
it's
so
all very
much the actual sole purpose of music in itself is to be human and to express how you feel
Yeah.
and act. And if that was perfect, it would be untruthful because we're not perfect.
Then yeah,
that way.
human would be perfect if the
Yeah,
music
yeah,
were
human,
perfect.
yeah.
Which is
So
why,
the
yeah, a lot
bulk of
that-
your stuff in the studio, you go in there as a group, and then maybe tweak it for the most part. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah, mix it around.
Yeah,
Essentially,
that's good.
Especially this album. It
We
was
do
pretty raw.
generally go. We get a track in 2 days, maybe. We're already working on the next thing, or writing the next thing in the studio, or this or that. And I'm generally putting down lyrics before I go into the booth and sing
Right.
the part, and yeah, and then we move on to the next song. And it kind of not so often do we go back.
When you write lyrics, do you spend a lot of time on them, or do you feel that when it happens, it just falls out?
It's both.
Depends.
So you spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah, I think so. Probably in the the front of my head and the back of my head. It's just sometimes some probably subconscious stuff going on, but yeah, I kind of on this most recent album, it's been a little bit more time to write each track because there's such a meticulous sort of approach that you have to take to something like this.
Well, what you write down is going to be around after you're dead.
That's it.
so-
I always
Right.
think, this is
Oh,
like
no pressure.
this stuff lives forever. We don't,
No pressure, Josh.
That's true, and
Not in the
a lot
flesh.
I'll help
you
you
have to
some
look at it like that because once you
Help you
put it
out.
out, it's there for now forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not really, about us. That's why I said in the flesh, it doesn't matter. To hell with legacy. The idea is that we can create this thing that does something good in the world, and that's really the only thing that
Right.
matters.
That's the profound thing.
It sounds cliche, but that's really what it is.
Well, I think I know the answer, but so are you having fun?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
No, never. No, we try to be really
we're very
dull
serious
and
people.
keep, in our lane. Not upset anybody either.
It's a drag actually.
Yeah, it's a drag.
It's a blast. It's so fun.
Oh,
It's,
Yeah.
it's a dream come true.
If you could have
It is a
asked
great
like four guys, 4 years ago who were playing in the garage, if you could show us videos of performances that we would have come to do, and places we would have come to be, and people, places, culture that we would have come to see and experience, I don't think we would have believed that. I don't
Right.
think that the four of us, young guys, would have gone, I think that, I mean, what a shell-shocking thing. I mean, to experience it and still be at this age.
Well,
Yeah.
I know you guys have met Tom Hanks, and
Yeah.
I mentioned this to somebody before because one of my favorite movies is That Thing You Do.
He referenced that when we met him, actually.
Glad you brought that up.
Well, and
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard my band, and later my first as a writer, country writer, hearing my first song on radio, and I mean, like James Panko's trombone player for Chicago, he was sitting where you're sitting, and he said, I'm driving down the interstate, in L.A., Make Me Smile comes on, and I'm like, they think I'm a nut in the car because I'm like, I'm on the radio.
Yeah.
So, did y'all have that thing you do moment?
That
With the first time
that's
you
a
heard
big
your
moment,
song on the radio?
right?
It's a huge
I
moment.
think so. Yeah.
That's a good question, didn't we?
I kind of remember. There
remember
was
Highway Tune.
A local station was going to play
Banana, right?
something that I don't know if we even. It wasn't the track that everybody would know.
Marlon
Or
Young.
something. What was it?
Something like-
Highway Tune?
Yeah, so I think we were actually,
But it
we went back
wasn't-
to Rust Belt Studios in Royal Oak, which around Detroit.
Highway Tune, you know.
Yeah, and we were recording and stuff, and I don't even know if we'd even released the song, even Highway Tune yet at this particular time.
Right. It wasn't that version.
older
that we
version
put
of
out.
And
Right.
Marlon Young, who's the guitar player for Kid Rock, who we were working with,
Mhm.
he was like called in a favor to a radio station. We're all sitting in the car, and he's like, "Hey guys, watch this!" And he gets his phone out, and he's like, "Hey Bob or Ben or whatever." And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm gonna send you a song. I want you to spin it." And he's like, "All right, great." And he hangs up. And we're all sitting there having a drink in the car with Al Sutton, the producer, and they turn on the radio, and the song comes on because we wanted to hear how it sounded in the car for
Right.
radio. So
Right.
the
Yeah.
local, the
a bit of
local
a
station.
practical
I don't
thing,
remember which
you know?
station. 'Cause
Yeah.
does anyone actually played it? And we actually were able to hear it when it and mixing.
Well, that's how it sounds.
That was one of those moments I remember. That was pretty magical. I was like,
That's
wow.
I mean, that's got to be, a thrill. But, a lot of
It's
times.
always kind of strange. You're in the grocery stores and thinking all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's like,
Oh, yeah,
what's
I've heard
going
that
on?
somewhere. Oh, that's me.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Weird stuff like
yeah.
that.
In the studio, though, here in Nashville, we used to just mix down to a 4-inch speaker for that reason, to see what it sounded like in a Volkswagen.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
If it sounded good there, then
You're doing okay.
if you cranked it up,
Yeah.
the home
Right.
unit, it's going to sound good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in. I really have looked forward to doing this for a long time, and I think you guys are just at the very beginning of a very, very long and successful career. And as long as you just stay as humble and as cool as you are, I think you'll have even a longer one. 'Cause truthfully, I do think that you handle yourselves much past your years, And of course, I've met some older people that are jerks that that I
They're not from the Midwest, though, are they?
Yeah.
No, they're not. So I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure your parents are very, very proud. And once again, thank you so much for being on Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Thank you all for watching, and tune back in next week. See you then.